Welcome back, my name is LastKnownMeal and today we're gonna be talking about Witchfire. Just a quick TLDR if you didn't watch my previous video, basically Witchfire is a new shooter from the Astronauts, the people who brought you The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Amazing game. Now they're doing a shooter and so far from everything I've seen, this game does look amazing. From the gunplay and graphics perspective, the game picked up a lot of attention. They are also using photogrammetry, where they scan real-life objects and import them into Unreal Engine. That's why you have these graphics that everyone is talking about. Their art style is basically from a lot of old paintings. They also talked about it a lot. And when they were also asked about the downgrade that, usually these games have amazing graphics, but once they come out, there is a huge downgrade, doesn't look that good. They said that they are actually looking forward to releasing this game with the graphics we've seen so far, and everything they show is from their PCs. Nothing has been tweaked or polished, that it looks better than the product we receive in the end. They also had a lot of experience in the past working on shooters. Most of their creative leads were behind Painkiller and Bulletstorm. If you play those games, you know that they're primarily shooter games and actually good ones. Now, they recently released a new article where they talk about the FOV, because the main issue in my previous video was about ADS and FOV, also that the crosshair wasn't centered. That means if the crosshair is aiming at the head, the gun would aim at the torso, which no one wants. So at first they talk about the ultra-wide LG monitor that they got from AMD, and usually you have some games like Fallout 76 for example that had problems with ultra-wide 21:9 aspect ratio, where the game is not optimized for that resolution. So the Astronauts decided that they should focus a lot on that aspect as well as to fix screen distortion with different FOV settings. If you play shooter games, you know how important field of view is. It controls how much you see on your monitor, and it does have an impact on how player perceive distance, size and speed. I play on high FOV, I like to see a lot, but sometimes the problem comes when screen becomes distorted and in the end it causes problems for your aim. And for a shooter game, that should not happen. Now, on consoles, FOV is usually locked to maintain the FPS. On PC, we have full control. Basically, even on PC, if you put high FOV, your frames might suffer depending on your system because more objects are going in front of your eyes. And that means the system has to render them as you go on. And they also showed us how high FOV can deform objects, making everything look bad. You don't want this. Trust me. So they learned from the previous builds where ADS, for example, in FOV 60 was broken. Big gun, no hands, looks yuck. On the other side, ADS in 120 FOV, which is the highest FOV setting, you get a small gun, too much hands. It doesn't look appealing and can generally cause people to throw up who are motion sensitive. So they fixed that and now it looks good. It's the same and your FOV is not causing you trouble. Also, you will have a chance to choose the position of crosshair, being centered or lowered, something people also brought up in my previous video. So in the end, what they did is that they locked the FOV for the gun and the player model to a constant value while retaining variable FOV for everything else. Sounds complicated, I know. They also had some rendering problems with the guns, which was also fixed when they locked the FOV to be vertical instead of horizontal, and that was fixed. So this means no matter on what resolution you play, being 16:9 or 21:9, your game is going to look good. There are also two more things I want to talk about, like the monster creation, also movement animation like sliding and dashing and all of that. So first things first, we're gonna talk about the monsters. One thing I said in my previous video that I really love when a monster has a story behind him, and also when every single enemy has a different attack pattern, different movement, because that will result in us changing our playstyle, and this will ultimately make the game more interesting, because one thing we don't want in a shooter game is for every enemy to act the same. That means our movements are not going to change, and generally, once you play the game for a couple of hours, it can become boring. So they are definitely working on that to make every single monster act differently and to have a story behind him. For example, this galley slave, he has scars on his back, and he looks generally miserable. And just killing him is going to be more like putting him out of his misery, rather than just saying like, oh, I killed him, I feel so cool. So they're aiming for that, and I couldn't be more happier about this. Next thing is the most important thing in a shooter game: player movement and player movement speed. One thing that we liked from Doom, from Quake, from all those shooter games were running and walking mechanics. How you kill enemies and all the combos you can do is what separates a shooter game, a decent shooter game, from a great shooter game. Now, Witchfire is going to have sliding and dashing animation. We do have a couple of examples here. All of this that I've seen definitely looks fun. And when you play this game for, let's say, a couple of hours and you do all these combos like slide and dash, it will keep you glued to the screen, because it will be interesting to, like, let's say, use your gun, slide, dash, and then use your ability. That is something which definitely adds depth into the game and generally makes it good. Also, for the end, there was a question of co-op. Are they going to add it? And in the official response is that as of right now, they are not sure. They will decide about it this year in 2019, but they want to maintain the control over the game and will only introduce co-op if it works. If it doesn't, they don't want to sacrifice the single player experience just to tick a checkbox and release something which is not good. Huge props to them about this. I'm so happy that a developer wants to actually maintain the game to be a single player, but if co-op works, they will put it in. They don't want to give you something which is half done, and that is something more devs need to do. Now, I will leave you a link to this article. Also, there's some other articles. They have been very active on their website about the development, so if you want to know more about this, I am going to leave you the links down below. So, this is everything I have for today. LKM signing out, and tell me down below what you think about this game, and subscribe for more Witchfire. Also, check me out on Twitter and Discord for more news. Stay classy, everyone, and bye-bye.